Listen closely, because I'm about to reveal something that most people will never hear in their entire lives. You've been told success is about talent, about luck, about having the right family or the right education. But the truth, that's the surface. What really drives billionaires, the hidden current beneath everything they do, are secret habits. Habits they don't talk about, habits they live by in silence every single day. See, wealth isn't just about money, it's about psychology. It's about discipline. It's about rituals that forge unshakable certainty in uncertain times. And billionaires, they guard those habits like treasure, because they know if the world adopted them, competition would skyrocket overnight. So let me pull back the curtain for you. The first secret habit, they protect their energy with ferocity. Not just physical energy, mental energy, emotional energy. Every decision, every conversation, every thought, they filter it. They don't waste themselves on gossip, negativity, or distractions. They build a fortress around their mind, and inside that fortress is laser focus. You want to know why they move faster? Think clearer, act bolder. It's not IQ. It's because they don't leak energy on nonsense. The second habit, they obsess over the invisible game. While most people chase visible rewards, cars, watches, likes on social media, billionaires are stacking invisible assets, influence, relationships, patience, reputation. They know those invisible assets compound faster than money itself. And while the world is busy chasing shiny objects, they're quietly owning the entire board. The third habit, they create pressure on purpose. Most people run from pressure. They avoid discomfort. Billionaires design it into their lives. They set goals that are unreasonable. They take on challenges that feel impossible. Why? Because pressure creates growth. They understand that without tension, without being stretched, there's no expansion. Pressure is not their enemy. It's their oxygen. The fourth habit, they rehearse the future in their minds before it happens. Every day. Not in some vague daydreaming way, but with precision. They condition their nervous system to believe success is inevitable, so when opportunities come, they're already ready. That's why it looks like got lucky. Luck favors those who've been rehearsing their victory for years in silence. And here's the fifth secret habit: they value time as if it were oxygen. They know money can be multiplied, but time cannot. So they cut ruthlessly. Anything that doesn't serve their mission, anything that doesn't align with their vision. They trade dollars to buy hours, and they invest hours to buy decades. They understand that how you treat 1 hour is how you treat your entire life. Now listen to me. These habits aren't just for billionaires. They're for anyone bold enough to demand more out of life. If you adopt even one of these, you'll feel the shift. If you adopt all five, your life will never look the same again. Because at the end of the day, it's not the habits billionaires talk about that change your destiny. It's the secret ones. The ones they don't share, the ones I've just given you. So the question is, what will you do with them? Most people think success is about doing more, hustling harder, grinding longer hours, and packing every second with activity. But billionaires understand something different, something most people never realize until it's too late. It's not just about how much effort you put in. It's about where that effort comes from. It's about the energy behind the action. Protecting your energy is the secret weapon, the foundation, the difference between running at half power and showing up as a force of nature. You can have the best strategies, the greatest opportunities, the smartest mentors, but if your energy is drained, none of it matters. It's like having the fastest sports car in the world with an empty gas tank. Billionaires know this. That's why they guard their energy with ferocity. Think about how most people live. They wake up, grab their phone, scroll through chaos, let the world's noise pour into their mind before they've even taken their first breath of conscious thought. Emails, texts, social media, bad news, other people's agendas, all of it seeps in and hijacks their energy before the day has even begun. And then they wonder why they feel exhausted by 10 a.m. They wonder why they can't stay focused, why they're always overwhelmed, why the big dreams they once had seem out of reach. It's not because they're incapable. It's because they're bleeding energy through 1,000 tiny leaks. Now, billionaires, they operate differently. They understand that energy is their most valuable currency. Not money, not time, not even opportunities, because without energy, they can't maximize any of those things. Energy is the fuel that turns ideas into reality, vision into strategy, strategy into results. That's why they protect it with boundaries most people would never dare to set. They say no more often than they say yes. They cut out toxic people. They avoid drama. They don't get pulled into arguments that don't matter. They don't gossip. They don't scroll endlessly. They don't waste hours reacting to the world. They create the world. And creation requires energy. Protecting your energy means becoming intentional with everything you allow into your life. The conversations you have, the food you eat, the sleep you get, the environments you put yourself in. All of these either recharge you or drain you. Billionaires know this, so they design their lives to support their energy. They sleep with purpose. They fuel their bodies. They exercise not just for health, but for power. They invest in recovery as much as in action. They know that if they don't manage their state will manage them. And most people live in a reactive state where they're constantly drained, constantly tired, constantly pushing through. The successful operate from an empowered state where their energy expands to meet the demands of the day. Let's go deeper. Protecting your energy is not just about the physical, it's about emotional and mental energy. How many people waste hours every day replaying negative conversations in their head? How many stay stuck in resentment, anger, or fear? That's an energy leak. That's like carrying around a backpack filled with rocks and expecting to run a marathon. Billionaires don't do that. They process emotions quickly. They let go of grudges. They don't dwell on problems. They move forward with solutions. They condition themselves to stay in a powerful state because they know that the world responds not to what you want, but to the energy you bring. And it's not just about eliminating drains. It's about actively generating energy. Most people wait until they feel motivated to act. That's backwards. The most successful people know that energy is created by movement, by momentum, by intentional action. They prime themselves every morning to step into power. Some use meditation, some use visualization, some use intense workouts, some use rituals that condition their mind and body for peak energy. The details differ, but the principle is the same. They don't leave their energy to chance. They create it. Imagine walking into a room with depleted energy. Your posture slouches, your voice is weak, your presence is barely felt. People don't take you seriously. Opportunities pass you by. Now imagine walking into that same room with energy that radiates certainty and strength. Your presence is magnetic. People lean in when you speak. Opportunities come to you. The difference isn't just confidence, it's energy. Protecting your energy means you can show up in every room, every meeting, every moment as the best, most powerful version of yourself. Here's the reality most people don't want to face. Every single choice is either protecting or leaking your energy. Every late night scrolling on your phone, every junk meal that drags you down, every toxic conversation you allow to continue, every time you procrastinate instead of acting, that's a leak. And enough leaks will sink the ship. Billionaires don't let their ship sink. They plug every hole. They optimize every decision. They understand that 1 hour of fully charged energy can produce more results than 10 hours of scattered, drained, distracted energy. That's the multiplier. That's why it seems like they're operating on another level. They're not working harder. They're working with more energy, more intensity, more focus than the average person can even imagine. And here's something else. Protecting your energy also means protecting your vision, because vision requires energy to sustain it. Doubters, haters, critics, they can drain you if you let them. Billionaires don't let them. They insulate their vision. They surround themselves with people who fuel their fire, not extinguish it. They immerse themselves in environments that elevate their thinking, not limit it. They choose carefully who gets access to their inner circle because they know that every person in that circle either amplifies their energy or depletes it. Protecting your energy isn't selfish. It's the most generous thing you can do, because when your energy is full, when your state is strong, you can create, you can serve, you can lead, you can impact at a level you never could if you were drained. Billionaires know that to change industries, to build empires, to move humanity forward, they have to show up at their absolute peak. That means energy is non-negotiable. That means it's sacred. That means it's the number one resource they protect above all else. Most people chase what they can see. They chase the cars, the houses, the vacations, the trophies, the applause, the validation, the likes on a screen. They measure themselves by the obvious symbols of success, and because of that, they are constantly trapped in a cycle of chasing, comparing, and feeling like they're never enough. Billionaires play a different game. They understand that the visible results everyone admires are only the surface. What truly creates power, wealth, and influence lies beneath the surface. It's invisible to the majority. It's the invisible game, and only those who understand it can ever dominate it. The invisible game is about building assets that can't always be measured or posted online, but end up shaping everything visible. Influence, relationships, reputation, patience, trust, discipline. These are currencies that compound faster than money. You can buy a car today, and it starts losing value the moment you drive it off the lot. But you invest in a relationship with the right person in the right way, with integrity, and that relationship can open doors for you 20 years from now that money alone could never buy. That's the invisible game. Think about reputation. Most people treat it like it's an afterthought. They cut corners. They say one thing and do another. They break small promises. They burn bridges, all for short-term gain. But billionaires know reputation is invisible capital. It travels with you wherever you go. When your name comes up in rooms you're not in, it either builds opportunities or destroys them. The invisible game is about protecting and expanding that reputation every single day. Doing the right thing even when nobody is watching, because in reality, the world is always watching in ways you can't see. The invisible game is also about patience. Most people can't wait. They want instant gratification. They want their business to succeed in a year, their investments to double overnight, their skills to pay off after one attempt. So they jump from thing to thing, never giving anything enough time to compound. Billionaires don't play like that. They plant seeds in the invisible. They invest in industries, companies, technologies, relationships, and they wait. They understand that time is a multiplier. They're not chasing what pays off in a week. They're playing for decades. While the world is obsessed with quarterly results, they're thinking about the next generation. That's why their wealth keeps expanding while most people's efforts never scale beyond survival. Another part of the invisible game is positioning. Most people are focused only on tasks. What can I do today? What can I check off my list? How can I feel productive? But billionaires are thinking about position. They're asking, how can I position myself so that opportunities come to me without me chasing them? How can I be in the right rooms with the right people in the right industries before everyone else even realizes where the gold rush is? Positioning isn't loud. It's not glamorous. It happens in quiet strategy sessions, in private dinners, in early investments. Nobody understands it first. By the time the visible world catches on, they've already won. Discipline is another invisible asset. You don't post discipline on social media. You don't get applauded for the nights you go to bed early instead of partying, the mornings you wake up before sunrise, the hours you spend reading and learning instead of distracting yourself. Nobody claps for your discipline, but discipline compounds silently, invisibly, until one day it explodes into visible results that make the world think you came out of nowhere. Billionaires live by discipline not because they're naturally stronger than everyone else, but because they understand that the invisible habits practiced daily eventually create the visible outcomes everyone envies. There's also the invisible game of emotional control. Think about how many people lose opportunities, relationships, and wealth simply because they can't control their emotions. They get triggered, they get offended, they lash out, they panic when the market shifts, they freeze when fear hits. Billionaires aren't emotionless, they're human, but they've trained themselves to master their state. They don't let fear make their decisions. They don't let anger dictate their strategy. They don't let insecurity stop them from making moves. This invisible mastery of self gives them a competitive edge because while everyone else is reacting, they are responding with clarity and power. And then there's influence. Influence is invisible leverage. It's not just about who you know. It's about who trusts you, who believes in you, who is willing to back you when the world is against you. Billionaires cultivate influence not by asking what they can get, but by giving, by contributing, by making themselves valuable long before they need anything in return. That invisible reservoir of influence becomes a tidal wave when the moment comes. Suddenly they make a call and doors open. They propose an idea and the world listens. Influence isn't seen, but it shapes everything you can see. The invisible game is also about perspective. Most people see obstacles. Billionaires see opportunities inside those obstacles. Most people see competition. Billionaires see collaboration that could multiply value for everyone. Most people see risk as something to avoid. Billionaires see risk as the price of entry to greatness. That perspective is invisible to the average person because it requires rewiring how you think. It requires training your mind to see beyond the immediate, to notice patterns others miss, to anticipate where things are going instead of reacting to where they've already gone. And perhaps the most powerful invisible asset of all is certainty. When a billionaire walks into a room, before they speak a word, people feel something. They feel certainty. That inner conviction that no matter what happens, they will figure it out. They will win. They will find a way. You can't buy that certainty. You can't fake it. It's built in silence through years of keeping promises to yourself, through countless repetitions of facing fear and moving forward anyway, through conditioning your nervous system to trust yourself completely. Certainty is invisible, but when you have it, it radiates. It changes how people respond to you, how opportunities find you, how your path unfolds. Most people never learn to play the invisible game because they're too focused on the scoreboard that everyone else can see. They measure their progress by external validation instead of internal growth. They want quick wins instead of deep foundations. But billionaires are always building the invisible foundation, knowing that one day it will erupt into visible results so undeniable that the world will call it genius, luck, or magic. In reality, it was the invisible game all along. Most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid pressure. They want things to be comfortable, easy, predictable. They say they want growth, but the moment life starts squeezing them, they run, they hide, they back down. And that's why they stay stuck. Billionaires understand something radically different. They know that growth doesn't come from comfort. It doesn't come from safety. It doesn't come from the easy road. Growth only comes when you put yourself under pressure, when you deliberately step into situations that force you to expand, when you create an environment where the only option is to rise higher than you've ever been before. Pressure is a force that most people see as destructive, but billionaires use it as fuel. They don't wait for the world to push them. They push themselves. They design challenges that feel unreasonable. They set goals so big that it almost scares them to say them out loud. They take on projects where they don't have all the answers yet. They invest in opportunities that demand they learn, adapt, and grow at lightning speed. Why? Because they know that pressure creates clarity. Pressure strips away what doesn't matter. Pressure reveals who you really are when there's no space left to hide. Think about how diamonds are formed. Carbon sitting underground doesn't become valuable by staying comfortable. It only becomes a diamond when it's subjected to extreme pressure. The higher the pressure, the more valuable the result. Human beings are no different. Under pressure, you discover strength you never knew you had, creativity that only comes alive when your back is against the wall, resilience that doesn't appear when everything is smooth and easy. Billionaires don't fear that process. They engineer it. They create pressure on purpose because they know it's the only way to unlock their fullest potential. When the average person feels pressure, they call it stress and try to escape it. They distract themselves, they complain, they numb it with entertainment or excuses. But the successful see it differently. They call it growth. They lean in. They use it as feedback. They ask, how is this pressure shaping me? How is it sharpening my skills? How is it forcing me to innovate? While others break under pressure, they bend and adapt, and eventually they come out stronger. There's another reason billionaires create pressure intentionally. It accelerates time. When you're comfortable, days drift by, weeks melt together, months slip away, and nothing changes. Comfort lulls you into stagnation. But when you're under pressure, time compresses. Every second matters. You become sharper, faster, more decisive. Billionaires live in this state by design. They take on massive responsibilities, not because they have to, but because it keeps them operating at the edge of their capacity. They know that if you want to multiply results, you have to multiply the pressure you're willing to handle. It's not about reckless risk. It's about strategic pressure. They don't create chaos for the sake of chaos. They put themselves in situations where the stakes are high, but that the payoff is transformative. They know that if their goals don't scare them, they're not big enough. They use pressure as a measuring stick. If it feels too comfortable, it's too small. If it feels intimidating, it's probably worth pursuing. They live in that zone between fear and excitement because that's where the breakthroughs happen. Pressure also reveals leadership. Anyone can smile when things are easy. Anyone can look confident when the money is flowing and the market is booming. But when everything is on the line, when uncertainty is everywhere, when people are panicking, that's when true leaders emerge. Billionaires cultivate this ability by constantly putting themselves in situations where others would crumble. They build the muscle of staying calm under fire, of making decisions when there's no guarantee, of moving forward even when the path isn't clear. That muscle only grows under pressure. The truth is, without pressure, most people never even tap into half of their potential. They stay within the boundaries of what they already know, what they've already done, what already feels safe. But billionaires are addicted to expansion. They can't stand staying the same. They know that everything they want, new levels of wealth, influence, impact, exists outside of the comfort zone. So they deliberately create environments where the pressure forces them to evolve. They don't wait for change to come knocking. They kick the door open and drag change into their lives. Look at any major breakthrough in history, and you'll see the fingerprints of pressure. The greatest inventions, the biggest companies, the most transformative leaders, they all emerged in times of difficulty, in moments where the pressure was unbearable. And the people who thrived weren't the ones who avoided it. They were the ones who stepped into it. Billionaires replicate that process in their own lives. They simulate high stakes environments even when they don't need to. They put deadlines on themselves. They take bold risks. They raise their standards so high that it feels almost impossible to meet them. And then, because of the pressure, they rise. Another dimension of this is accountability. Most people avoid it because accountability creates pressure. It forces you to face the gap between what you say and what you do. Billionaires seek accountability. They tell the world what they're going to achieve, knowing it puts pressure on them to deliver. They surround themselves with people who will challenge them, not coddle them. They build teams that demand results. They don't want to be comfortable. They want to be held to a higher standard because that pressure keeps them moving toward greatness. And here's the irony. The more you train yourself to thrive under pressure, the less pressure controls you. Most people live in fear of it because they've never conditioned themselves to handle it. But billionaires treat pressure like a gym. Every challenge is another rep. Every tough decision is another set. Every crisis is another chance to get stronger. Over time, what would break the average person barely shakes them. They've built capacity. They've built resilience. They've built a relationship with pressure that turns it from a threat into an ally. Creating pressure on purpose is about mastering the environment instead of letting the environment master you. It's about putting yourself in positions where you must rise, where failure isn't an option, where the demand pulls out of you a version of yourself you didn't even know existed. It's about refusing to live small just because small feels safe. Billionaires don't avoid the fire. They walk into it because they know the fire forges them into something unbreakable. Most people wake up and let the day happen to them. They roll out of bed, they grab their phone, they react to messages, they scroll through other people's lives, and they start their morning with a vision of what everyone else is doing instead of a vision of where they are going. Billionaires operate differently. They don't just live in the present moment. They rehearse the future before it happens. They condition their minds every single day to see the life they are building as if it already exists. They know that the future doesn't arrive by accident. It arrives by preparation. Rehearsing the future isn't about wishful thinking or casual daydreaming. It's not about hoping things go right. It's about training your nervous system to believe with absolute certainty that success is inevitable. Billionaires don't just set goals and forget them. They live in those goals. They visualize with such clarity that their body reacts as if it's already real. They walk into the meeting they haven't had yet. They close the deal before the contract exists. They deliver the speech before the stage is even built. By the time reality catches up, they've lived it hundreds of times in their mind. So when the moment comes, it doesn't feel new. It feels familiar. That's why they look unshakable under pressure, because they've already been there. Most people wait for confidence to appear before they act. Billionaires act as if they already succeeded because they've rehearsed the victory again and again until it feels natural. Confidence isn't something they're waiting for. It's something they build by conditioning their future into their present. They don't get blindsided by opportunities because when opportunity comes, they're already ready. They've trained for it. They've walked through it in their imagination so many times that execution feels effortless. What looks like luck is nothing more than preparation meeting reality. The brain doesn't know the difference between something vividly imagined and something actually experienced. That's why rehearsing the future is so powerful. When you see, hear, feel, and embody your desired outcome daily, you are rewiring your nervous system to expect it, to believe it, to move toward it without hesitation. Most people rehearse the wrong future. They wake up worrying, imagining failure, replaying doubts, telling themselves all the ways things could go wrong. And guess what? That rehearsal becomes their reality. Billionaires know this, so they deliberately focus on the future they want, not the one they fear. They put their energy into what they are creating, not what they are avoiding. It's not just mental rehearsal, it's emotional rehearsal. They don't just picture success, they feel it. They step into the joy, the gratitude, the pride of achieving their vision. They flood their nervous system with the emotions of victory, and that energy shapes the way they act today. Most people wait to feel successful until they see results. Billionaires feel successful first, and that energy creates the results. That's the reversal. That's the secret. They know that the state you live in daily determines the life you create long term. Rehearsing the future also gives them resilience, because when setbacks happen, and they always do, the vision is so deeply rehearsed that it doesn't shake them. They don't abandon their path because of temporary obstacles. They've seen the bigger picture so many times in their mind that they know the setback is just a step in the process. They don't panic when the plan changes because the vision doesn't change. They're flexible with strategy but obsessed with the outcome. That obsession comes from living inside that future so often that it feels like home. This habit also fuels decision making. Most people make decisions based on their current circumstances. Billionaires make decisions based on their rehearsed future. They don't ask, does this fit where I am now? They ask, does this align with where I'm going? That future-driven perspective means they move differently, invest differently, act differently. They say no to things that look good today because they've already rehearsed the future where something greater exists. They sacrifice instant gratification because they've felt the fulfillment of long-term achievement. That clarity only comes from conditioning the future into the present. When you rehearse your future every day, something powerful happens. You start to notice opportunities you would have otherwise missed. The brain is wired to filter information based on what it believes is important. If you constantly visualize and focus on a specific future, your brain will start seeking out evidence, connections, and resources to make it real. It's like tuning a radio station. You filter out the static and lock into the frequency that matches your vision. That's why billionaires seem to always be in the right place at the right time. It's not chance, it's because they've tuned themselves to the frequency of their future. Another dimension of this is identity. Most people see themselves as who they've been. They define themselves by past mistakes, old patterns, what others said about them, and the limitations of yesterday. Billionaires define themselves by who they are becoming. They don't live in their history, they live in their destiny. They use rehearsal to embody the identity of their future self. Today, they ask, how would the person I'm becoming think, act, and make decisions? And then they live that way now. Over time, reality bends to match the identity they've rehearsed into existence. Rehearsing the future daily is not about ignoring the present. It's about mastering it. Because when you live in the energy of your vision, you show up differently today. You make bolder choices. You speak with more conviction. You work with more passion. You carry yourself with the presence of someone who knows where they're going. People feel that. Opportunities gravitate toward that. Success accelerates around that. Most people believe the future is something that happens later. Billionaires know the future is something you bring into now. Every day, they carve out time to close their eyes, breathe, and live in the reality they're creating. They don't wait for permission. They don't wait for results. They don't wait for circumstances to line up. They rehearse, they condition, they embody, and then they act from that place. And eventually, the world has no choice but to catch up. Most people treat time as if it were endless. They waste hours, they waste days, they waste years, living like they've got a second life in the bank waiting for them. They act like they can always get more time, as if the clock isn't ticking for all of us. Billionaires think differently. They treat time as if it were oxygen. Every second is sacred. Every minute is precious. Every hour is an investment that either compounds into something extraordinary or dissolves into nothing. They know money can be multiplied, opportunities can be recreated, but time is the one currency you never get back. Once it's gone forever. That urgency changes everything. Most people measure wealth in dollars. Billionaires measure wealth in minutes. They ask themselves constantly, how am I spending the most valuable resource I will ever have? They cut ruthlessly. They eliminate distractions without hesitation. They are relentless about protecting their calendar. They don't say yes to things out of guilt or obligation. They say yes only when it aligns with their vision, their mission, their destiny. That's why they seem to move at a different speed than everyone else. They are playing a different game with time. Look at the average person's day. Hours lost scrolling through social media, hours lost watching TV, hours lost in conversations that go nowhere, hours lost worrying about things they can't control. Add that up and you see why so many never achieve what they're capable of. It's not because they don't have potential. It's because they've traded their most precious resource for empty returns. Billionaires refuse to do that. They know that the way you treat 1 hour is the way you treat your life. Every hour misused is a piece of your destiny thrown away. Every hour invested wisely is a seed planted for your future. Valuing time like oxygen means moving with urgency. It doesn't mean rushing or being frantic. It means recognizing that every breath matters. It means showing up with full presence, not halfway, not distracted, not scattered. Billionaires don't just go through the motions. When they work, they're all in. When they rest, they're all in. When they connect with someone, they're fully present. They live in a state of intensity because they know time doesn't wait. They squeeze meaning out of moments most people overlook. They find opportunities in conversations others would have treated casually. They build empires out of hours that others would have wasted. Another piece of this is leverage. Billionaires understand that if time is oxygen, then they cannot afford to suffocate themselves doing tasks that don't match their highest value. They delegate, they automate, they build systems, they pay others to do what drains them because they know their energy and their time must be reserved for decisions and actions that create exponential results. The average person thinks they're saving money by doing everything themselves, but in reality, they're spending the most expensive currency they have, time. Billionaires reverse that. They trade dollars for hours because hours are priceless. Valuing time also means saying no constantly. Most people are afraid of no. They think no will offend people. Closed doors make them seem selfish. Billionaires know the opposite is true. Every yes is a no to something else. Every time you agree to something that doesn't align, you are saying no to your future, no to your vision, no to the life you claim to want. That's why they protect their time with intensity. They don't allow guilt, fear, or obligation to run their schedule. They let vision run it. They let priorities run it. They let destiny run it. When you value time like oxygen, you stop procrastinating. You stop waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect circumstances. You understand that waiting is the biggest thief of your future. Most people don't fail because they tried and lost. They fail because they never started. They wait and wait and wait until their time is gone. Billionaires don't wait, they act. They know imperfect action today beats perfect action someday. They live with urgency because they know the cost of hesitation is too high. Time also determines relationships. Billionaires don't waste time with people who drain them, distract them, or keep them small. They spend time with people who multiply their energy, who expand their thinking, who elevate their vision. They choose conversations that stretch them, not shrink them. They invest their hours with people who align with their mission. They know that who you spend your time with shapes who you become. And because time is so precious, they refuse to give it away to anyone who isn't aligned. Valuing time like oxygen changes how you think about legacy. Billionaires aren't just thinking about the next weekend, the next paycheck, the next vacation. They're thinking about what their time will mean when they're gone. They're asking, what impact can I create with the time I've been given? How can I use this resource to build something that outlives me? That's why they operate with such urgency and purpose. They know they can't take time for granted. They know they can't waste it on things that don't matter. When you treat time like oxygen, you move differently. You stop indulging in excuses. You stop living in tomorrow. You stop putting off the things that matter most. You wake up every day with the awareness that your time is finite, and that awareness becomes your fire. It becomes your focus. It becomes the reason you don't allow yourself to waste another minute living small, settling for less, or tolerating what doesn't serve your future.